Quiet resignation. Tonight's theme is going to be just that. And by that I mean both definitions of the word, excuse me. Not only the one that you know, but also the second definition that Webster offers in the version of this dictionary that, of course, is not completely consumed by a certain extremely left-wing politic. And that, of course, that second definition is passive acceptance, which we will get into later on in this show. We'll talk about all the things that have taken place over the last 2 weeks, including all the things that have happened in my life over the last 2 weeks. For example, and I can't, of course, I have no other place to start, of course, than to thank the community for all of the recommendations that they've been giving me when it comes to landscaping and the work I do in that field. If you guys haven't seen it, I was able to complete a walkway. These are the fruits of my labor. This is a walkway I was able to finish about a week or so ago, so you guys can see where all of these recommendations are going. They are not for naught, and of course, I'm ever grateful for them. And this is what that walkway looks like. My favorite, of course, here you can see how that walkway looks unadulterated. And my favorite shot is this one that we discussed, that you guys have probably already seen. So, of course, before I get started, I always have to give a special shout out to the community that's been making these recommendations. I did just finish a bed. I didn't get a chance to import the before and after pictures into tonight's show. But hopefully, maybe I'll be able to talk about that at the end of the show while some things are running. I'll be meeting another client this Friday to talk at a supplier for another walkway, which is going to be a much greater job. So again, special shout out to the community, and happy to take on new clients for all of these things and for all the things related to that. This is how I have money to hire people to do work in that field, so I have time to do this show and all the fun stuff. Now, of course, I'd have more time to do this and more reason to do this if I had something of a sponsor or if I had something of a donation system, but we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. As far as what happens to me more recently, yesterday there was a meeting of the Litchfield County Libertarian Party, and that happened at 3 o'clock at the Abbey. So if you guys want to check out what we're doing or see me in real life, the final Sunday of every month, and that's going to be the case this month as well, which I believe is August 29th at 3 p.m. at the Abbey, we'll be having our monthly meeting. It takes about 20, 30 minutes to go over business, and then we kind of just support a local business, eat their food, and drink their drinks. Both adult and not adult. So that's one of the things you guys can check out. Of course, that's not the news that's taken place. That's just what's happened for me and my way of saying thanks to the community and allowing people to understand things. In the interim, I've built a Discord server. So if you guys want to be able to join in a manner that is, I'm trying to allow for call-ins because people have asked for that. So if you want to join in the Discord server, I'm dropping that information into the chat right now. That's on Facebook and this is on the YouTube end. Let's see, is that enough characters? No, that's too many characters. So let's edit that. Here we go. There. Now you guys can, if you want to, at the end of the show when we do our live Q&A, as we always do on this show, this is your opportunity to hold my feet to the fire. If there's something that I haven't talked about that you want to talk about, that's your opportunity to do that. If you have questions, get those questions in now. And if you want to join in on the if you want to join in the call-in version of the live Q&A, then the way to do that is to join in on the Discord server. I just dropped the Discord server link and instructions into the comments on both the live stream on Facebook and on YouTube. If you would prefer to watch on YouTube, I am trying what's called ultra low latency streaming on YouTube, so you guys can check that out if you're watching on Facebook. Link is in this video's description. Same thing with YouTube. If you'd prefer to join in the conversation on Facebook, you can do that too. Link is in this video's description. And of course, the biggest news as the fire updates. Now, I've already said that the best resource for the New Milford High School fire updates, since it's been 2 weeks since I've streamed, is the mayor. That said, I did take the time to put together this frequently asked questions post. So if you guys see questions that come up quite a bit, I'll keep adding to this post. I'll keep putting out information, and I'll just read this post so you guys can get an idea of what's going on here. And I should probably zoom in, shouldn't I? Here, let's make this a little bit bigger so you guys can read this. Answering some already answered questions because they seem to be continuing to come up. Treat this as an ongoing FAQ so the mayor can get some rest. Feel free to share updates to come. So if you guys can see that link, go ahead and share that if you want. I don't have the ability to drop that in the comment section right now. Number one, according to DPW Director Jack Healy, yes, the teacher's belongings inside the affected classroom should be covered by Kerma. That's our insurance agent. That's our insurance company. Link is, you can see that link. According to New Milford Mayor Pete Bass, the combined bond and insurance coverage for this event is over $20 million. See the attached video. I will update this post when it appears already answered questions get asked repeatedly, and as a way for the community to have a quick go-to for those commonly asked questions that have already been answered on the record. I will only provide answers I can either directly link to or provide video/photographic evidence for, and which have been answered on the record. If you have basic questions, I'll do my best to update this post to include both answers and the documentation you can go to in order to confirm the answers in context. Note, the best place to, and this is true, this is what I've been saying for a while now, the best place to go to for Q&A about this event, the fire that took place in New Milford High School a few weeks ago, are the town halls the mayor is having on the town's official Facebook page every other Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. EDT. You can ask the mayor and his team any questions you want in real time, and they will get answered. So, like I said, the best resource for all of this is the mayor's office. I'm just going to go over the really basic and important stuff that's taken place in case anybody's missed out. And the mayor has been utterly relentless with these updates. And honestly, even when it comes to things like stuff happening, let me make sure my audio levels are correct here. Even like things like stuff happening from the Board of Education side of things, the best resource is still the mayor, even though the best resource is actually going to these meetings. If you can't go to these meetings, the mayor has been, again, utterly relentless about updating the community on what's been taking place. In fact, here's a post from July 24th, 2022 at 6:38 a.m. For those who couldn't tell, yes, July 24th is a Sunday at 6:38 a.m. Mayor Bass is not sleeping over all of this. This is the kind of thing you'd like to see and you consider virtuous. But that said, it's gotten to a point where I was at last Monday night's town council meeting, but it's clear that the mayor just isn't getting some sleep. And he's at some point going to need to get some sleep. I hope he does. I hope he does. Just so folks know, here's his most recent update. New Milford High School fire update. Our contractor, Belfour, who we'll be bringing up later on in the show, continues with remediation and repair work at New Milford High School. 100% completion of soot clearing and encapsulation of the first floor. Removed all remaining air scrubbers from the first floor. Continued soot cleaning on the second floor. This is 75% complete. Continued masking of rooms and necessary infrastructure above the ceiling grid in preparation for fireproofing encapsulation on the second floor. This is 75% complete. Continued encapsulation of fireproofing on the second floor. Removed all but one air scrubber from the second floor. Began demobilization of supplies and equipment on the first and second floors. 100% completion of removal of water-damaged drywall and insulation on the third floor, which is the big deal at this point. Rooms 3204 and 3205, which are in the center hallway on the third floor, are excluded because they are still under investigation. This is probably part of the fire marshal's ongoing investigation into the official cause of the fire, which has not yet been released. However, it can still be said on the Mike Sennello show. It probably can't be said in town council meetings. It probably can't be said on the New Milford, on their mayor's official page, but the contractor twice admitted at least cause on camera. And we went over this last week. I showed you the footage where they at least admitted cause. And the meeting on the Thursday night before that last show that I had, yeah, they admitted fault on the record as well. So things to be said about that situation that I can say on this show that the mayor can't say, so that's why I'm going to say them. Maintained all remaining air scrubbers and dehumidifiers. 1 dehumidifier and 2 air movers are the only drying equipment that remains, which means that we're basically done with dealing with water damage. This equipment is located in room 3204, directly under the fire. Continued cleanup of AHUs, I don't know what that stands for, 1 and 5, and associated ductwork. First and second floors are 100% complete. More to follow. What great news. What a white pill. What a surprisingly good job Belfour is doing at hurrying up and getting this job done. I was not expecting this. I was not expecting this window here. I was not expecting this type of good news. And my expectation going into this was that we would be lucky to even have this thing done in time for the school to be fully open by like October 1st. And, you know, I don't really have any problem with admitting when I'm wrong. And in this case, if I said anything to that effect on the record, I was wrong. I was 100% wrong. So, like I said, all good news, and the best resource is the mayor. Within his Facebook page, the best thing you can go to is the biweekly New Milford High School Fire Town Hall. I will drop a link. I'll drop a link in this video's description in the comment section right now to the most recent town hall that's taken place. Let me get this link copied here, and I'll get this dropped into YouTube. This is on YouTube, and this is on Facebook's end. And yeah, so you can see that right here. This is on YouTube, and it's just easier to find these sort of things on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and just type in Town of New Milford. There's one Town of New Milford channel. It would be extremely helpful if everyone who has so much as a Gmail account, which is all it takes, subscribe to the town's YouTube channel so that we can achieve the 1,000 subscriber threshold necessary to qualify for live captioning, YouTube's live captioning service, which would make things a lot more ergonomic for those watching at home. But if you want to rewatch it, it's 47 minutes long. This is what happened last Wednesday night. And again, if you have questions about this sort of thing, if you want to remain updated, this is the best place to go, because you're going to get Jack Healy, you're going to get Matt Cunningham, you're going to get the superintendent or interim superintendent or assistant superintendent, you're going to get the mayor, you're going to get Board of Education Chairman Fallenbach, you're going to get a Board of Education Vice Chair Pete Helmus, you're going to get the people in the know in this situation, and they're there to answer your questions. So this is why I kind of want to move, I've said on the last episode, which I know was 2 weeks ago, I kind of want to move away from this subject because they're doing just such a great job of getting the word out on what's taking place and answering everyone's questions. Now, from that last town hall, here's just the quick stuff that matters. That for those of you who are under a rock, here's the stuff that hasn't been, the most obvious. There's some questions that were answered in that meeting. The school year will likely not be contracted, though it will be delayed. Though it will be delayed. We'll get into that in just a second. Graduation date is not set, and that's normally done until September anyways, which is kind of a follow-up on the fact that the school year will likely not be contracted and will probably dip into summer. And we're not exactly sure what's going on with the parking situation at New Milford High School students. According to Wendy Fallenbach, quote, "We know there will be student parking. We just don't know how much." Now, prior to all of this, and very shortly prior to all of this, the mayor, in keeping everyone informed on everything, in keeping with that spirit of keeping everybody informed and not sleeping on this matter, the mayor let out what is probably the best news we've had on this entire situation. I'll drop the link in the comment section here now to the post that it was probably the best news we've gotten here. That's on Facebook. Here we are on YouTube. So you guys can follow along. For some reason, I'm still getting notifications, even though I turned all of my notifications off. July 18th at 2:48 p.m., New Milford High School fire update from Superintendent DeCorpo. Dear NMPS staff, as promised, I am writing... Oh, sorry, this is not the update I was looking for. Ah, shucks. Pardon me, folks. It wouldn't be an episode of the Mike Sennello Show. Okay, so I may have dropped the wrong link in here. So let's move this one over. Here we go. Come on now. Load up. Here we go. New Milford Fire update. I have some very exciting news. This is July 27th. This just came out on July 27th. That's only 5 days ago, excuse me. I have some very exciting news to share. First, the northern and southern, the theater and gym area parts of New Milford High School have been cleared for use this fall. Air sampling has been completed and has been cleared by our third-party environmental engineer, Fussin O'Neill. This is the big study we were waiting for. In speaking with DPW Director Jack Healy in Belfour, and our insurance carriers will be able to open the first, second, and most of the third floor for use this fall. This means we will not have to use temporary pods for the school year. What a relief. What a white pill. What excellently good news. Prior to the students coming back to school, there will be testing of air quality, safety tests, and more. Our first priority is for our students, faculty, and staff to have a safe school to come back to. Assistant Superintendent Hollander and the Board of Education will be sending out information today, as well as follow-ups on the school year for all students. They will also be creating an FAQ and the ability to ask questions on the school website. Please tune into tonight's Facebook Live, and that was the town hall that we talked about just a few minutes ago. So it seemed like the community was okay with having the pods, but it also seemed like there was at least some pushback from the community against them, and also that they would people would rather just go back to school if they can, right? If they can just go back to school, they can. That said, the school year is, like I suggested, getting pushed back. New Milford High School Fire Update. This is from July 18th. As promised, I am writing you with an update regarding the start of school in fall of 2022. This is from Superintendent DeCorpo. The restoration company has been working diligently to continue to clean areas of the high school building that were impacted by fire smoke, water damage, etc. All floors continue to be assessed, and I should know more about the availability of additional rooms this week. The air quality test results are due back this week. Additionally, 30 to 40 portable classrooms are being sourced. Not going to need to do this anymore. But here's the important part of the news. With only 38 days until the start of the school year and the proposed arrival time of some portables of approximately 4 to 6 weeks, arrival could be on before or even slightly after August 29th. Therefore, it is imperative that the first day of school and all teacher meetings be moved up on the calendar. The first day of school for all students will now be Tuesday, September 6, 2022. The change applies to all students, and at all schools, pre-K through 12, a revised district calendar is attached and may be viewed on the district website too. So just a few things on that. The polls seem to suggest that if it was less than 2 weeks, you guys would be okay with this sort of thing. If we can avoid pods altogether, I think everybody's fine with just going back to school on September 6th. I think it seems like from the polls, from the gist I've been getting from people, that seems like what people would prefer. Some people have even gone so far as to say, why don't we just always start school late like this? Now, this has been done before. In the 1990, we talked about this in the last episode. In the 1999 to 2000 school year, the school year was significantly contracted, and it was for basically the same purpose. Because at the time, what was New Milford High School and what would become Sarah Noble Intermediate School was under repair. It was going to get a massive renovation while what is now New Milford School and what was at the time just a farm was being built. So we actually got out of that school year in the year of 2000 in May, in the middle of May. In fact, like I said last time around, it was probably around May 15th because I remember celebrating my mother's birthday on her birthday, May 18th, and being out of school at that time. So I'm not suggesting that we can have this delay and not have to extend that into the summer, into June and into the summer year. But I am suggesting that it has been done. And just so people understand, the general consensus from the students contemporaneously was, yeah, we probably missed spring break while we were missing it, but we didn't even notice all of the 3-day weekends that we lost. We didn't even notice all the miscellaneous holidays that we lost. We didn't even notice that the Christmas break and Thanksgiving break were contracted to the legal bare minimum. Didn't even notice them as they were missing. Didn't even notice that we were missing those days as things were going on. And honestly, it was kind of like not really a secret that the first 3 days of school, that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday that starts the school year in August, are wasted days. And there's just no exercise taking place. No No classroom assignments, no homework assignments. It was extremely taboo to issue classwork or homework during those 3 days. And it was almost always just, ice cream parties and cake parties. And, here's a video we can watch, or hang out and let's talk about things, right? And nothing actually got done. Once the school year started, it was because we had such a contracted school year, we just got right into business. And honestly, because we just went into business, it was much easier to develop a rigor, much easier to develop a routine, and then to stick to the routine. So I would argue that not only at the end of the year do we say, well, I guess we missed our spring break while it was happening, but 3 weeks later we were out of school. So yeah, no, now I don't miss it. And honestly, I remember everybody saying at that time, why don't we just do this every year? Why don't we just have the contracted school year everywhere? Now, of course, the reason is because the unions will fight it tooth and nail. But I even remember the teachers' general consensus was this was kind of nice, just getting through the school year and then having a nice long summer and having a routine and not being completely disjointed from that routine. Every few weeks we were going to have a miscellaneous day off, and I would say the educational experience was probably improved because, again, we were able to establish and maintain a routine. So do I think this is going to adversely affect students? I don't think this is going to happen, that's going to be the case. But we are going to have a delayed start to the school year, and we shall see how things go with all of that. So that would be the biggest news that's taken place, with the exception of one thing, which of course is that Superintendent DeCorpo, and there's more to this than what we're going to get to. Trust me, we're going to get to all of this. Requested and was granted a leave of absence. So again, the resource we're going to go to is New Milford Mayor Pete Bass, because, how else are you going to get this information if you aren't a parent of a student in the system and thus have access to these emails that are being sent out to the parents of students in the system? From Assistant Superintendent Holly Hollander. Dear families, I am writing to inform you, this is from the Assistant Superintendent's office. I am writing to inform you that Superintendent DeCorpo has taken a leave of absence until September 2nd. Right. So this is dated July 22nd. So that would be, an entire month and then some leave of absence? And it's also knowing, too, that her letter of resignation, her resignation is going to take effect October 4th. So she's going to take a more than 1 month leave of absence now, and then come back for a month before her resignation fully takes effect. Yeah, I understand why there's been some pushback on all of this, because the optics are terrible. And perhaps there's a good reason. I honestly, I can't even conceive of what that would be. Right, other than maybe some sort of legal mandate or some contractual obligation that the union is basically forcing the Board of Education to accept. Maybe that's the case. And honestly, what's the Board of Education to do except at this point, accept at this point to accept her request and to grant her request? Why would you even make this request at this time, knowing what you have to know what this is going to look like, right? And I am the one that when that petition was going around asking for her head, not just for her job, but for her head, that 1,800 of you signed on to, I was the one that said, whoa, slow your roll. Hold on. This is not time to ask for her head at this point. Let's not jump to conclusions. There's a lot of spurious claims being made that when I said slow your roll and let's wait for more information to come out, I was 100% vindicated something like 5 weeks later when the information did come out. 100% vindicated. And quite frankly, that being said, the only reason I'm going to say for everyone to hold their breath is because I was right the first time. Honestly, if I wasn't right the first time, I probably would be doing what you guys are doing and jumping to conclusions, right? And some of you are taking it a little bit too far, right? For those of you who are taking the approach of "Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead" or singing "Na na 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 hey hey hey," I'm gonna get copyrighted. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. But at this point, I know I'm going to have a hard time convincing people to not jump to conclusions. This looks bad. And, the leave of absence almost immediately was extended by the Board of Education. So these are the minutes, because I don't have video yet, because the video hasn't been released if it was taken. If there's no video for these special meetings, just an offer to the Board of Education, you know what I can provide. You know what I can do. Give me 24 hours notice and I'll make it happen. And in fact, if it's day of, I might still be able to do something. So you guys know how to reach out to me. You guys know how to get onto my email. You guys have my email address for Taylor Media. I can make it happen if there's no video being recorded for these special meetings. If there is, then sorry, folks, it's not been posted to the Board of Ed's website yet. So we can go through the minutes from the special meeting of July 28th, 2022. And item 3 is what matters. Discussion and possible action. A, discussion and possible action regarding superintendent of schools placement on administrative leave. Executive session anticipated. The board may take action when it turns to public session. Yes. This conversation, since it's an administrative leave being placed on the superintendent, then the discussion as to whether or not to do that has to happen in an executive session. It has to happen there. If you guys have pushback against that, say so. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. If you guys disagree with me on this one, I'll explain at the end of the show why this has to take place. But you have to have this in executive session. Ms. Rella moved that the board enter into executive session for the purpose of discussion regarding the superintendent of schools' placement on administrative leave, and to further move that the board invite attorney Zachary Shurin, I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry, Zachary, into the executive session, seconded by Mrs. McNerney, and passed unanimously. As we scroll down, the board then, they went to executive session, came back. Ms. Rella moved that the board place superintendent of schools Alicia DeCorpo on non-disciplinary leave of absence from September 3rd, which would be the current end of the, prior to this motion, would have been the end of the leave of absence, through October 4th, 2022, seconded by Mrs. Sarich, and passed unanimously. Motion made and passed unanimously that the board place superintendent of schools Alicia DeCorpo on a non-disciplinary leave of absence from September 3rd, 2022 through October 4th, 2022. Now, I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to speculate why it is that the board decided to do that. And I don't imagine the rationale is even legal to make public, so we'll probably never get it. But I will say that having not been there, because I just haven't had time, folks, I would love for this to be kind of like a full-time job, but there's got to be the finances and economics for it just aren't there. But I got to say, the way that reads, this reads like they were fed up with the whole situation and just said, you know what, screw it, stay home. Stay home. You're 4 weeks away from the affectation of your resignation. The Board of Ed needs an interim. Let's just do it now and get it over with. It seems like it would be easier to just hire the interim now rather than wait out the next 2 months. Right, when that's the case. It does seem like they were fed up. Again, I may be reading into it, but it does read like that. If that's how the minutes are going to be published, those minutes read like they were fed up with the whole situation. And in the interim, they did name Jean Ann Pattyfoot, who was the superintendent of New Milford schools for years prior to this whole revolving door at this position that I've talked to you guys about. I really hope the reason Mr. Corpo left in the first place isn't in response to the wildly unfair treatment she's gotten from you guys in the community. I mean, wildly unfair. I don't even have to defend her to say that. So, like, way too many people have, again, jumped on the ding dong the witch is gone bandwagon and signed that petition that was, we talked about why it was wildly out of order. It was wildly out of order, right? That if I was in her shoes, I wouldn't have had the temerity to stay on as long as she did. I would have just said, you know what? Fine. I'm out of here. Best of luck. For those that were complaining about the revolving door and in the administrative offices in Milford Public Schools, the fastest spinning revolving door was the superintendent's office. Until Alicia DeCorpo came around, and then she was there for at least, a year and a half-ish? And through the middle of all this nonsense we had to deal with COVID? So, you know, I don't want to have to come to her defense, but at the same time, I understand the optics look terrible. So who's the person that's being named in the interim is Jean Ann Pattyfoot, and there's a little bit more that we can glean from this article from CT Insider, which we have to take with a colossal grain of salt. And there's a reason I'm not sharing this article in the comment section, which we will come to momentarily, but this is where we're getting at least some form of information on all of this. Just 1 week after outgoing Superintendent Alicia DeCorpo requested a leave of absence from New Milford Public Schools, the Board of Education has voted to appoint former veteran New Milford Superintendent Jean Ann Pattyfoot as interim superintendent. DeCorpo announced her intention to leave New Milford Public Schools on July 7th after serving about 18 months as the district superintendent. So my estimation of a year and a half was just about dead on, apparently. She submitted a request for a statutorily required leave of absence on July 20th, which was approved the same day. DeCorpo's leave of absence began July 21st and was originally slated to continue until September 2nd. If this is 100% literally true, as literally written, okay. All right, well, I guess that's why the leave of absence took place. The Board of Education organized a special meeting on Thursday. Board of Education Chair Wendy Fallenbeck said the board took several actions then, quote, to ensure the continuity of district leadership heading into the 2022 to 2023 school year, end quote. Board members voted to effectively extend DeCorpo's leave through her last day with the district on October 4th. DeCorpo was expected to take a position at Advanced, which is a state office. Fallenbeck said the board is contractually obligated to continue DeCorpo's pay until October 4th, regardless of her leave status. So it is a paid leave of absence. The Board of Education voted to appoint Pattyfoot as the district's interim superintendent with an anticipated start date of August 15th. So it's August 1st. It'll be 2 weeks before she starts. I guess the acting superintendent thus would be Holly Hallander, who is the assistant superintendent. Quote, the board felt it would be appropriate, given these challenges, to have Dr. Pattyfoot promptly assume the role of interim and continue that role uninterrupted until approximately the end of January, or a permanent superintendent is hired, end quote, Fallenbeck said. Pattyfoot first joined the district in 1980 as a director of pupil personnel and special services. She held that position until 2001, then served the district as assistant superintendent for a year and as interim superintendent for 3 years. In 2005, she was named superintendent. So 2005 was the start of her tenure. Pattyfoot retired from New Milford Public Schools in 2016. That reads to me like her tenure was 11 years. Wouldn't it be nice? In the ensuing years, she was employed at several interim positions in the school districts, including the Avon, Ridgefield, and Madison Public Schools, worked as the interim superintendent for Regional School District 7, Haddam-Killingworth, and was interim director of special education and pupil personnel services for Watertown Public Schools. So we at least have a resume here that looks pretty good. It looks like if you're going to hurry up and hire somebody on an interim basis, I don't know that you're going to find a more on-paper qualified person than Jean Ann Pattyfoot. Quote, we are excited to welcome Dr. Pattyfoot into our district, and we are confident that we will all work together as a team to move the district forward, end quote, Fallenbeck said. Quote, New Milford Public Schools has always held a special place in my heart, as it is the district where I began my administrative career, end quote, Pattyfoot said Friday. It is an honor to return and serve as interim superintendent. I am excited to work with all stakeholders to get schools ready for a successful opening on September 6th and to prepare the district during the transition to a new superintendent, end quote, she said. So this seems like the kind of person you would want for the interim position, and it seems like the kind of person you would have wanted, on paper at least, for the official superintendent position when she assumed that position in 2005. Somebody who had been in the district, in the offices for 20-something years prior to that. The only person I know of that probably has that level of tenure with the district, at least, with New Milford Public Schools in some manner at least, is Wendy Fallenbeck. I don't think Wendy would ever want to take this position, to be honest. It's kind of a thankless position, but that's what we're looking at in terms of experience, in terms of having that type of resume otherwise. I'm not suggesting she should take it. Please don't take me out of out of context here. This is just to give an idea of who has even been in the district as long as Jean Ann Paddyfoot was before she assumed the role of superintendent. So, yeah, I mean, you would like to see skin in the game for whoever they're going to wind up hiring permanently. Now, the reason I didn't share that article, and I told everybody we were going to read it, but take it with a gigantic grain of salt, is because we have information from members of the Board of Education who commented on Facebook. This is Leslie. She's on the Board of Education. We did not approve the superintendent's leave. The Human Resource Department did that, and we were notified of it just for the record. And then this response from Pete Helmus, who's also on the board. This is leading to some confusion on my part. Maybe I'm the idiot here. I don't know. This is a good point about quote unquote approving the leave. There is in fact no approval for these leaves. It's paperwork to apply for the leave, and it's the law that you cannot deny the request. Our HR did not approve the leave either. So it looks like there was no way to approve or reject the leave, kind of like I mentioned before. This is one of the many things that bothers me about our modern press. They are careless and destructive in their choice of words. They leave things dangling almost in the hope of creating a stir or a side story for more clicks. You'd think that part of studying to be a journalist would be a deep immersion and course of studying the English language, Orwell, and how words need to be carefully chosen so as not to cause an unfounded implication. In my view, it's laziness, ineptitude, or maliciousness, yes, but it's not good reporting. And, this has been kind of the complaint that I've had about reporting in general. We had an entire episode on all of this a few months ago, and Pete may have a point here. That, to clarify, the Board of Education really doesn't approve any of these leaves. They can accept them. I don't think they legally even can reject them. It is just, here's what's going to happen, and we have to do it. And that's, of course, because of problems that I've suggested before with the public education system. It's not with New Milford. It's with the fact that it's public education. It's with the fact that they're hamstrung by Hartford when it comes to negotiating these sort of elements of the contracts with the union. It's because there are, not only that, there are also a mountain of legislative demands that Hartford puts on New Milford, who, quite frankly, if we're the ones paying the bill, if the checks are made out to the teachers, signed by New Milford Public Schools, yeah, I don't know why Hartford has any say in this matter. Like, we should be left to do. I would think that the people of New Milford know what's best for the students of New Milford and not Hartford. I would think the people of New Milford have a much better understanding of the needs of the students in New Milford than do people in Hartford. That, honestly, the only one you're ever going to run into is Billy Mo Buckby. Bless it, and bless him for that. One out of however many hundreds of people in those state offices, in the Senate and in the House, one of them you're going to run into. And they're the ones making this legislation and hamstringing the Board of Education here in New Milford. And, this is not a problem of New Milford. This is a problem of public schooling in general. And I told you the theme of the show is resignation. There was, of course, another resignation. And I'm going to share with you guys. No, I'm not going to. I'm just going to show it. Here's the town council meeting agenda from last week, so you guys can see that. There is a link that I'm showing at the top of the screen that you guys can follow if you want to. I'm not going to put it in the comment section. It's not necessary. And as we scroll down through the agenda, we can see under appointments and reappointments, Municipal Building Committee, 7 members for your term. Tommy Pilla would be replacing Tim Clark. Now, there are a number of people that reached out to me about this and said, what the heck is going on there? It seemed like Tim was really invested in all of this. It seemed like Tim was kind of in the know in all of this in a way that the lay person just isn't going to be. It seems like he was an effective liaison from the Municipal Building Committee to the rest of the community and to the lay people. And in my eyes, he was actually really good at explaining in lay terms the technical jargon that needs to take place from the various contractors and converting that. converting that technical jargon into understandable English. So a number of people actually reached out to me about why it is that all of this was taking place. And I kind of explained the short version of this. Oh, I don't actually have, let me add this real quick. Let me make sure I have this right here. Okay, so let me just make this readjustment. So Tim actually submitted an official letter of resignation at the Municipal Building Committee meeting the week prior, and so you guys can see that. I'll share that here. Let me bring this up in just a second. I forgot to put this into the show, folks, so bear with me. What do we have here? We got to get rid of this. Yeah, here we go. So this is Tim's letter of resignation, and I'm going to pull it up myself so I can follow it because it is kind of small font, but it's there, and it's real short. It's real short. Dear Mayor Bass, I will be temporarily resigning from my position on the Town of New Milford Municipal Building Committee. During this time, I will be assisting Jack Healy, Director of Public Works, with the task of getting the New Milford High School open and ready for the students by Labor Day. Attached, you will find my resume and list of projects, including references. I thank you for leading the town through this unexpected disaster and am offering my services as a construction advisor at no cost to the town. So I talked to Tim about this because, again, a lot of people were coming to me and saying, what? Why is Tim of all people leaving the Municipal Building Committee? And the short version is that he wanted to take a volunteer position directly under Jack Healy temporarily to act as a boots on the ground, singular point man for the remediation project. Jack probably could do this, and is probably qualified to handle the type of work, but the amount of work just winds up pulling Jack completely away from the rest of his duties as DPW. So he really needs somebody, again, to be boots on the ground so that Jack doesn't have to always be that guy and to act as, again, a point man for the remediation project. And Tim thought that, he wanted to resign temporarily from the Municipal Building Committee because he wanted to avoid even the appearance of any conflicts of interest or forget it, I'm not going to be able to say the word. The appearance of a conflict of interest. So that's really all it comes down to. I'm not sure why this became something of a bit of a hubbub, but it was something that wound up coming up at the last town council meeting. And honestly, Mayor Bass does a pretty doggone good job of explaining the whole situation. Here we go.
I'd like to move the appointment to the Municipal Building Committee of Thomas Pilla. His term would be July 25th, 2022 through January 31st, 2026, and he is replacing Tim Clark.
Second.
I have a second. I'd like to give some more information to the council if I could. And the reason for Tim is here tonight as well, is in doing this project that is very complex at the high school. We're talking about multiple vendors. You've got Belford, then we're going to have the roof. We're going to have the roof that the insurance company is going to pay part of the rebuild, and then we're going to have the standing seam that's going to be awarded for the completion of that project. As we all know, Jack Healy does tremendous work, but Jack's one guy, right? And Jack also leads our roads, our bridges, helping out the B committee,
Yes.
Lots of other things that he does. So in thoughts are we need somebody that can be boots on the ground, that can be there every day. And you know who stepped up to the plate? That was Tim Clark over there. Tim has extensive experience in construction. He's on the Municipal Building Committee. And he said, you know what, Pete, for the community, I'm going to do it. So in speaking with Randy, the thought process is that Tim would resign to make sure that this is all done in a transparent way. If Tim resigns from the Municipal Building Company until this gets completed, then he's going to come back on. So while Tim's away, who could we get that could help out the Municipal Building Committee, who, by the way, has 262 years of experience. 262 years, guys, of experience. Well, I asked Mr. Pilla if he would do it. Mr. Pilla has extensive experience, as most of us probably know, in building. You add him in there, now you got 300 years of experience on the Municipal Building Committee. So I'm asking the town council for the community. This isn't about anything but just getting this project done. Getting people in here that want to move this project forward. But Tim, thank you for doing this. And then asking Mr. Pillow to join, of which he will then jump off as soon as this project is over.
And that's all there is to it. So the mayor does a really good job of explaining all of that. You guys can see the entire conversation on the live stream, like we did. You can just go to the town's YouTube channel. You just type in Town of New Milford. It'll be either the first or second video that pops up on the town's channel. And the timestamp I have is about 30 minutes and 34 seconds. It's probably just before that the conversation begins. And the conversation lasts a long time. And then it kind of dissolves into a bit of a spat. And, it's a little bit of a hubbub that I really don't consider to be all that much news. But I'll show it because so many people asked. And I've been sharing the link to the part of the video where there was a bit of a hubbub, if you will. It's 1 hour, 17 minutes, 25 seconds in. And am I gonna share this link? Yeah, I'll share this link here so you guys can follow along with that. Let me make sure I'm on the right link. Let me make sure I have that. Oh no, I don't actually have that link. Sorry, folks. Don't have that link here on that computer. It's on this computer instead. So you're gonna have to bear with me. It's 1 hour, 17 minutes, 25 seconds in, and yeah, this is what it looked like. The conversation, just to contextualize all of this, there was something that came up. This is Councilman Joe Fiala in response to the praise that is being offered to Belfour, the contractor we talked about, we said we'd bring up later, who has been contracted to perform the remediation. Here we go.
Everybody is thanking everybody. Belfour will be paid an obscene amount of money for their work.
They'll be paid what the insurance company has justified. So I don't know what extraordinary amount means. They are being paid what is approved by the insurance company. So we can't say extraordinary amount.
I will say it.
Yeah.
I don't need to be corrected by you. I will say it. They get paid that money.
Well, no.
They get an obscene amount of money. I'm not here to discuss it with you. Jeez. But Belfour is the biggest, and that's why they're the best in what they do. At some point, the insurance company is going to start squawking about bills, and that's when the challenge comes.
So, just to educate you, well, you don't.
I don't
want to
need
listen.
education.
So, Mayor, what has happened every single day?
I'm not going to get corrected by him.
Mayor, what's happened every single day is the insurance company. You have 4 guys from the insurance company that have been on site. Mm-hmm. They're already ahead of these issues, so they can't order it and then say, oh, well, we ordered it, we had to get it. They're not letting them go to B without approving A.
Yeah, okay, that was a cheap shot. I mean, that's all it was, but that was a cheap shot. And there was an audible groan in the room. And, for those who weren't there, you see, it's not necessarily well captured on camera. But yeah, this wasn't exactly the most popular take in the room, even contemporaneously, even in the moment and at the time. And it was, completely unnecessary. And quite frankly, the last thing we need is a reason for the insurance agencies and underwriters to be jerks to us. They've been pretty cool so far about covering these costs, which is really all Tim is doing in this conversation. He's covering your arse. That's all he's doing, right? He's saying, well, hold on. The insurance company is making the decisions as to what gets covered, and we're not really completed with this process. So why don't we hold our tongues before we label something as being extraordinary or extreme or however you want to call it. They're approved, like as Tim says. I know it sounds a bit robotic, but they're going to get paid the amount that they get approved to get paid by the insurance company, and just leave it at that. Right? That's the last thing we need is cannon fodder. And, that could wind up being the case. Now, again, this is a cheap shot, but that's all it is. Some have asked for Joe's resignation over all this. It's a cheap shot, but no, resignation is too far. If you want to see him elected out of office over something like this in 2023, fine. But I'm kind of disagreeing with you on something like that. There are a lot bigger fish to fry, even in that room, than someone who's going to take a cheap shot at, well, in this case, not only the insurer, not only the the remediation company, but Tim. Like, you don't need to be doing this to Tim. And that's really all there is to say about all that, because, again, this is a case for everyone in the room. This is a case of where everyone in the room was in agreement that this was a come on man moment. And that's all it was. But a come on man moment was not really the case when it comes to what's been going on with, and hopefully we can get through this part of the segment quickly, catalytic converters. Right? And the short version is, and this is what's been in the news in the last 2 weeks, this is what's kind of taken over this town. And we're going to have an economics conversation, because crime is not begat by poverty. Poverty is begat by crime. Crime is an interference with mutual consent in transactions. The way you build wealth, the way you get out of poverty, is to maximize mutually consensual transactions. And you can't have that when you have Farmer Brown stealing, Farrier Smith stealing Farmer Brown's oats rather than exchanging his ferrying services for Farmer Brown's horses in exchange for those oats. So having law and order is a prerequisite for getting out of poverty. And when you have law and order collapse, this is what brings on the poverty. And the short version of the story that's been taking place is, it's the same two guys getting away with one or two cats every single day, and nearly every day. They're driving around the same black Honda Accord with blacked out windows and cycling through, just a cavalcade of stolen license plates. And the question I have, of course, is where are they taking them? Because Connecticut just passed probably the most stringent law in the country regarding the scrapping of catalytic converters. And honestly, I've read the actual law, and honestly, we're just going to go to the short version. And this is an article on patch.com. I've read the actual legislation. This is pretty accurate. So what's the law that was put into place? Scrap metal processors and junk dealers need to record several details if they purchase a catalytic converter that isn't attached to a vehicle. So stolen is what this means. The transaction record must include the date, description of the catalytic converter, and amount paid. The seller's information must be taken as well. That includes a driver's license number, a photo of the seller, and the license plate number of the vehicle used to transport catalytic converters. Sellers may only sell one catalytic converter per day to a scrap metal dealer. Payment can only be made in the form of a check, which must be mailed to the seller's home address, right? So if the law is actually being in any way obeyed in this matter, you can't just have some crackhead quickly getting some cash. Catalytic converter sales must be reported to state police electronically once per week. What are the penalties for non-compliance? The law will become part of the state's junk dealer laws. Violation is a Class C misdemeanor, which is like 3 to 5. This is kind of a big deal. Why have catalytic converter thefts increased? Well, that's kind of unimportant to the actual legislation itself, but that's an incredibly stringent regulation. And it makes no sense to have a scrap metal yard where you're not taking in huge amounts of scrap metal. It makes no sense to pay people for the scrap metal if you're not processing huge amounts of it to such a point that there's no possible way you're going to go unnoticed, right? This isn't like drug dealing, right? Like a little tiny bit of meth, a little tiny bit of coke, kind of expensive, even a big ass bag of weed, that's like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that you could relatively easily hide. Not from the drug dogs, not from the German shepherds, but from you and me, relatively easily hide it. A big ass heavy ass catalytic converter is not quite as easy to hide, nor is a truckload full of scrap metal, that if it's not the catalytic converters. So in this case, I don't know how you run this business without being constantly under the eye and under the thumb of the authorities here on this matter. Now, again, maybe there are some crooked dealers, but this has become a bit of a meme in this state. So you have to assume that there are surprise visits happening all the time to all the scrap metal dealers, right? So I want to get into what my thoughts are on this matter, but I want people to know that, everyone in this town knows at this point that this is taking place, and that does include the mayor, who did manage to update on us on what is going on from a policing standpoint. And this is in response to one of the posts of sightings of these fellas. Hi, Stephanie. Thanks for the tag. Our New Milford Police Department is currently working with other law enforcement agencies as this is a statewide problem. Some of the issues facing our officers are the vehicles that the criminals are using, are, for the most part, stolen. An example is the black Honda that is spoken of. When reported to the New Milford Police Department, the plates that were on the car were not the true plates for the car and are changed all the time. Keep that in mind because we're going to get into tinfoil hattery here, on my part at least. With the state statutes that have been passed in Hartford, police are no longer allowed to pursue these type of criminals. Guys, don't you just love what's going on in Hartford? Election in November, election in November, election in November. Police are no longer allowed to pursue these types of criminals. They know this, and this is part of the reason for this lawlessness. In speaking with the Milford Police Department Captain Wilcoxon, here is his recommendation, quote, anytime a citizen is experiencing someone damaging or stealing property, they should immediately call the police and we will respond as soon as we can. They should give as much detail as possible when speaking with the dispatch center, as the officers often respond from all over town and may come across the suspects even if they have left the scene. Getting a good description along with a vehicle registration is great. It's a black Honda Accord with blacked out windows and stolen plates from out of state. Getting a good description along with vehicle registration is great, and Ring doorbell camera footage is happening in the Walmart parking lot, and Aldi's parking lot, and the Big Y parking lot, in the Home Depot parking lot. It's incredibly predictable at this point. Citizens should refrain from confronting the thieves directly, as that can lead to a dangerous situation for the property owner. Yes, the mayor has to say vigilante justice is not justice. This is a multi-state problem. Remember that too, because we're going to come back to that started a couple of years ago. And while there have been several arrests recently in other jurisdictions, several more pop right up, end quote. So yes, the police department and the mayor have to say that. But they have at least said something. Again, this is our mayor who doesn't sleep. And mayor, like, everyone got to see the footage of the clip I just put out from town council meeting. Get some sleep, man. Seriously, get some sleep at some point. Like, we like you, but get some sleep. Like, I love this commitment, but I hope it doesn't cost you in the long run when you wind up getting sick and can't attend some of these meetings and can't tend to your duties as we would like you to. That said, some of this is a little bit of a groan because I explained that the New Milford laws on all of this the Connecticut laws on all of this, the Connecticut state statutes on all of this are incredibly stringent. That isn't true in every single state, and that may not be necessarily true in New York, though I know they're at least fairly stringent. If they're just taking them to that southeast location right on 55, right over the state line, those inspectors are there all the time. Again, I don't know how, as he explains, the other jurisdictions know about this. This is a nationwide meme. Everybody knows this is going on. So where the hell are they taking these catalytic converters to? If it's not just some guy with a pickup truck that's handing out cash or more likely hits. And that's why I'm starting to think that this might not actually just be these two guys. Now, the votes are in. It seems like you guys are leaning towards, I'm giving out some tinfoil hattery. But just to elucidate everybody on what I'm talking about here, here's the post that I put out for everybody to follow along with. Some thoughts on the recent catalytic converter thievery. This is much bigger than those two guys. They're just pawns. For this to be worth the effort or risk, you have to be doing this in a number of places and have a centralized place that will just give no questions asked cash for a single or two cats every single day. So this is what I'm talking about. You've got to have just a guy with a pickup truck that's taking in these cats. Where else? They've got to be junkies. Like you, in order to engage in this level of, like I know I'm presupposing a conclusion here, but they've got to be junkies. I've been around junkies enough to know that these have to be junkies. So they're looking to just quick score, which means that they're not going to drive all over Kingdom Come to find some to rotate through all of the and to rotate through to abide by any of the laws in Connecticut, right? Because they're not going to get their quick hit. It's going to be a check mailed, physical check mailed to their home address, right? You know they're not going to present an ID. You know they're not going to do any of that. So again, they've got to find somebody that's willing to take these catalytic converters in exchange for cash, and probably a lot of it, and in this case, probably not even cash. Read, these are meth head mules that are getting cash or hits to bring 1 or 2 cats to some guy with a pickup truck full of them, who doles out cash or hits to probably a dozen or so teams of addicts. As in, these 2 guys aren't the only ones going to that guy with the pickup truck. It makes no sense to have an operation set up like that. My guess is there's probably a bunch of these guys going to some guy with a pickup truck. And my guess is cash isn't actually involved, but meth is. Getting away with storing or transporting truckloads of cats, knowing exactly where they came from, and having a steady supply of probably meth, means you have to get a pickup truck dropped off somewhere where you won't have any questions asked. And it can't be too far away, because if you're gone for 2 days, the meth heads you're doling out meth for cats to will just break into your den and rob you while you're gone. Which means even the guy these 2 quote unquote locals are getting their hits from probably isn't even the main guy. Which means this is probably a lot more sophisticated than 2 guys going to Southeast every day with 1 or 2 cats. And this is made perfectly clear by the fact that they're using a different, obviously stolen out-of-state plate every single time. So they've had the wherewithal to somehow go through all this process and be able to get their instant cash or hits, and also have these stolen plates that they're cycling through on this same car, and somehow not get arrested, and somehow not catch a 38 special right into their chest. I mean, how long can you keep that up? Years? Is that really what's going on? My guess is there is also a ring of stolen vehicles / license plates being distributed in bulk to the pickup guys, the guy with the pickup truck, and doled out on a daily basis to the cutter guy, the guys with either a Sawzall or probably more likely either a cutoff saw or an angle grinder, which would be a way faster way to cut through all that. It also probably means there are big-ass box trucks / tractor trailers heading somewhere far, far away, the main location, where they'll just, no questions asked, take a tractor trailer load of catalytic converters, right? Like, again, if you're going to be that big and be a scumbag, you got to be well hidden, and there's probably only one place where that's going to be the case. Filled to the brim with cats and get picked up, let's say once a week at a pickup location, and probably some direct relationship from there to where the meth is itself being cooked in bulk, which means that I'm thinking these are meth heads, and I'm thinking they're just getting straight meth for this shit, and that the guy with the pickup truck and the meth is getting the meth in some way from the actual cooker of the meth. The people that are, because it doesn't make sense to cook the meth and dole it out in little tiny bits. Now, again, they're meth heads. Anyone cooking meth is a meth head. I'm sorry. The people that do this sort of cooking are themselves all. There's no such thing as you never dip into your own supply. It's a rule that always gets broken constantly. My guess is all this is just a tip of the iceberg, and just getting these 2 guys will do nothing. Seriously, where are they taking these cats? It can't be a nearby scrapyard, as this meme of cashing in a new cat every day is already well known in New York and New Jersey, so I can't imagine the scrapyards don't know they're being stolen every single day, and nor the regulators and inspectors that are showing up every single day to these scrapyards, which means it wouldn't take more than a few weeks of this being the case for a local scrapyard to get busted. Again, how does a local scrapyard not get busted? And none of these places are getting busted over the course of 2 years. None of them are getting busted. And this has to be going on for over a year, which also means the meme of just cycling through a new out-of-state plate in his stolen Honda driven by a couple of junkies has to have a back end as well, which is the license plate part of this. And there's no way these 2 junkies wouldn't just get caught / arrested, or worse, Ricardo Lathers, at some point on the other end of this without them having some organized help. I hope New Milford Mayor Pete Bass and the New Milford Police Department are taking under serious consideration the likelihood that there is more to the situation than just two guys. And if a sting or undercover operation is planned, I hope they keep any details about the situation quiet and out of the public light. The last thing this town needs is for those guys to get wise to what's going on behind the scenes. And all that means is Mayor Bass and the New Milford Police Department, don't advertise on Facebook that you're putting together a sting. Don't advertise that. I know, Mayor, I know you love to keep the public informed. Great. This is something you don't want to inform the public about. Just all you have to do is put out the post you already put out. Don't put out anything more. We're aware of the situation. We're addressing it. Move on. Move on. And hopefully it is actually being addressed. And my guess is, again, just 38 specialing these two guys is probably not going to do anything in the long run. And there's probably going to be somebody that gets instantly fill their shoes. And what you really want to do is be able to get some sort of top-down entire and get the whole thing all at once. Which means that if you're going to do anything, what you do is put some sort of tracking device on the Honda. Right? It's ridiculously easy. Tiles exist. It's meant for like tracking where your keys go, but you connect them to your phone. You put a neodymium magnet on it that you can get at Taylor's. And then when they're doing their thing underneath somebody's car, somebody goes up and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" and is on one side of the car and distracts them while the other person just kind of casually walks by and pops the magnet, pops the tile on to the bottom of the body, pops it on some piece of metal somewhere in the car that these crackheads, that these junkies, are not going to be paying attention to. And then boom, it's on your phone. Boom, it's on your phone, and they're going to know exactly where they're going, exactly where they're taking all of this stuff. So that's how you would go about that. Let me know, guys, in the comment section. Is this tinfoil hattery? Is this tinfoil hattery? I mean, and this could be tinfoil hattery. Right now, the votes are in, and it's +1 in favor of tinfoil hattery. So let me know what you guys think. But my way of thinking is that's probably how things are going to go with all of that. That we're probably not going to hear back from all of that for some time. And that it's going to continue until something horrible happens, God forbid. Now, that's a little bit of a black pill, and I kind of don't want to end the show on such a downer. So I've been saving some of the other events that have taken place over the last few days. I believe it was Saturday. Yes, Saturday. Yeah, Saturday afternoon was some Irish bowling, so you guys can check that out. Yeah, some pretty cool trophies that were awarded to the winners of the Irish Road Bowling. Apparently, there were hundreds of people that signed up for all of this, or dozens of teams. I would love to know the results. We're not going to get that in. Also, over the weekend, on Saturday morning, was the New Milford 8-mile road race and 5K. As you can see here, that took place on Saturday morning. And you guys can see what the start of that looks like here on this video. This is something I used to do all the time. This is one of my all-time favorite races. The 8-miler is an unbelievably difficult course. It's an extremely difficult course given its length. And honestly, in all the races I ran in Connecticut, this is probably up there. Probably up there with one of the hardest. The 5K is a really cool 5K. Normally when you have 5Ks that are road races like this, and I have this many people showing up, again, it's one heck of a crowd that shows up for these races. Running just runs through the blood of this town, and I love it. It's one of the things that really attracts me to this town. The guy I got working for me said on day one that you'll never catch me running, and even he's now kind of catching the running bug. So I thought that was kind of cool. Some cool things that have taken place in this town. As far as I'm concerned, since as we wrap up the show tomorrow night, there was supposed to be a sports complex feasibility committee meeting at 7:00 in the E. Paul Martin room. I'm going to go. There's nothing on. Oh, hang on. Excuse me. Again, it wouldn't be an episode of the Mike Sennello Show without a technical difficulty. But supposedly there is a sports complex feasibility committee. I'm on that committee because of my background in sports turf. I was the assistant head groundskeeper for the Savannah Sand Gnats, which was a single-A affiliate of the Mets. Tonight, Scherzer's on the mound, so we're going to try to wrap things up here in just a minute, and I'm missing out. And yeah, so tomorrow night at 7:00 was supposed to be one of these meetings. We're supposed to meet every first and third Tuesday of the month. Guess it's not going to happen. If it happens, then after the event, if it happens, then after the event, I'll be headed to Cool Hand Dukes. And if it doesn't happen, I'll be headed straight to Cool Hand Dukes because finally, best news of the year, better news than even what's coming out of the New Milford High School roofing project. DeGrom is taking the mound. So if you guys want to hang out tomorrow night, that's where I'll be, is at Cool Hand Duke, so I can go ahead and watch the game. So guys, come join me. Come hang out. If you guys disagree with me, we can talk some politics, or we can just talk some baseball. That's what I'll be doing tomorrow night. And I've got an in-person event planned. I'm going to have a lecture topic. So let me know in the comment section if you guys want to join in on all of that. Stay tuned. And of course, keep those recommendations coming in. This is how I pay my bills. And paying my bills is the thing that allows me to do what I'm doing here tonight. If there are other topics you guys want me to cover, keep them coming in too. Trying to keep everything going as much as I possibly can. And thanks for everyone who watches the show. We are about to get into Q&A, so let me share that Discord link in the comment section if you want to call in. And the instructions are in the Discord server. Let me pop this into YouTube. Here's the Discord invite link on YouTube. Here's the Discord invite link on Facebook. So yeah, if you have comments, questions, get them in now. If you want to call in, I'll hang out for just a few more minutes at the very least, so you can get in on that Discord server and go into the Captain Phoenix voice channel, and I'll pull you in so we can have a conversation here on the live show. But again, thanks to everyone who watches and get those questions. Let's see what everyone has to say. Let's see. Paul's watching. Thanks, Paul. Paul is a regular. Paul Murphy is a regular to the show. Paul, I got a special shout out to all the regulars that come in regularly. Pat Erickson, he posted the same day at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, so that's 6 o'clock in the morning post. Apparently there was another post at 3 o'clock in the morning. Mayor needs to get some sleep. Pete Helmus clarifies that when I said AHU, since I didn't know what that stood for, stands for Air Handling Unit. Paul Murphy, last town council meeting, Tim Clark, one of the people spearheading the school repairs, gave a good report on what is happening at the school since the fire on the 5th of July. So guys, again, I think I put the link in the comment section. You don't have to. I don't have to do that. You can go to the town's YouTube channel. It's just Town of New Milford. The meeting is there. There are lower thirds, which are the titles at the bottom of the screen, so you can follow along with the agenda. I put the link to the meeting's agenda in the comment section of all of those videos, so you can follow along. Acute political commentary. Thanks, Dan. Pat says goodbye. Good night, Pat. Rebecca, I just assumed it was an FMLA leave. I don't know what FMLA stands for. Forced medical leave of absence. I don't know. I honestly don't. Family and medical, maybe? I don't know what FMLA stands for. Let me know, guys, in the comment section. Rebecca, let me know what FMLA stands for. But it's administrative leave, her request, or the board's. So to clarify, Mr. Corpo put in a request for a leave of absence. It was to expire on September 2nd, so she could be back in time for the opening of the school year. And then after receiving that notification and after accepting that notification, the Board of Education said, we're going to extend upon her that leave of absence through the rest of the month and to her into the effective resignation date. Pete Helmus, we don't accept or reject leave of absence. Yeah, all covered by FMLA law. You apply and the date of your leave starts the day you request it to start. Not approved by BOE, not the district's HR department. So kind of like I said. Did we lose the feed here? Is that what's going on here? So kind of like I said, the Board of Education's hands are kind of tied on this situation. Pat Erickson lost the feed. Oh, okay. So I guess it was Pat. Sorry if it's your end. Folks, if you ever lose the feed, go to the YouTube version of this and watch there. If you have a problem with the YouTube, check in over at Facebook and check there. This is a huge part of why I dual broadcast. Facebook is not a great landing site for these types of broadcasts. Paul Murphy, 104 bowlers and 24 teams. Great event, which will be bigger next year. Really cool. Really cool to see these type of events taking place in town. Just checking the commentary on YouTube, not seeing any commentary on YouTube. Let's see if anybody decided to join in on the Discord server. And I'm not seeing anyone on the Discord server. So, hey, you guys had your chance. We're going to continue to do that. So again, if you're watching this after the fact, in the comment section is going to be the link to the Discord server. If you want to tune in, hopefully next week at next Sunday night at 7 on a regular hour. Yeah, if you want to call into the show, that's how it's going to happen. We'll do it on Discord. So all you have to do is get onto the Discord server, and I can pull you in from there. It's much easier than dealing with Zoom. And again, hopefully we'll be back next Sunday night at 7 p.m. as we normally are. And special shout out to everyone who's stayed tuned. Always, again, genuinely greatly appreciative of everyone who watches. Thanks everyone for staying with me tonight. Good night, everybody.